Hi, this is a Bitcoin brief. We have Giacomo and Tone and Brazil won. I don't know who watched, but yes, they are my team that I want to win the World Cup. But I will also say, Dobar dan. Croatia did a great job. This is back when you guys had Kranjčar. And so I will stop with that because yes, today is amazing. Tone, Russia won.
Yeah, I'll actually watch that game. I have to say it was the it was like the most boring game of football I have ever seen in my life. The Russia game, but they did win in penalty kicks. The penalty kicks were actually pretty exciting. So that was actually pretty cool. I was rooting for Mexico today. Unfortunately, they lost. So we'll see. We'll see who I'm rooting for going next.
Well, hopefully it's not a grumpy tone day then. No, just kidding. They say it's quite an upset with Russia. Giacomo, different background. How are you? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm
Don't get kidnapped
somewhere.
by him.
No, no, it's somewhere that the kidnappers can. Also, I'm poor. I don't own bitcoins, and I just happen to know some private keys, but I don't own any bitcoin. So don't kidnap me. And I am in the mountainside with the family. And tomorrow morning, very very early, I will take a plane for Lisbon with Mir, which is here, and we will be at Building on Bitcoin conference.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, I was thinking of going there, but it was like I waited till the last minute, and then the ticket prices were so expensive, and since I'm also broke, that it came out of my budget. So I decided not to go. But I will be going to Atlanta on Friday, and I also got a chance to. I sent out my passport, so let's see how quickly I can get that back. So I can't travel for a couple of weeks.
If you get it back.
Yeah. Yeah, and it'll be interesting because like they have this whole IRS section. Like they're gonna check every penny of my taxes before renew my passport. Let's see how that works out.
Yep, yep. You may end up back in Washington, D.C. Okay, let's start with a fun one for today. This is Monday, so we got to start fun. So, Saifedean, thank you so much. This was very enjoyable. I will read it for anyone that's listening right now and for the audio podcast later, which is if your developers need multi-million and quote unquote need multi-million-dollar Ponzi schemes to be incentivized to develop apps that have found exactly zero commercial applications, you just might be a Silicon Valley thought leader. Before I turn it to Giacomo in Washington, D.C., quote unquote thought leader is my favorite buzzword, by the way. And you'll actually see it on like government employees, but you'll see it on their like LinkedIn's that they are the thought leader. Yeah, I think it's hilarious. Okay, well done, Saifedean. Giacomo, Mr. Developer, what did you have fun with this one? What did you think?
I'm not a developer. I'm just a guy who brings pizza to real developers and then likes to hang on with developers. But as a person that stays with developers a lot, I think that basically Naval just fell in love with the notion that since you can use some technology to recreate money in a way which is sounder than fiat money and more private than fiat money and more censorship resistant, then of course you can just recreate from scratch any kind of social economical interaction with new means, which is just, I mean, it would be nice if it was true, but it's just not true. So his point is that you need ICOs and altcoins and this kind of scams, because otherwise who will pay for the poor open source developers, right? So Naval tried to pass the concept that we need patents into open source, which is crazy, of course. And now he says, okay, but you have to pay for these developers. So if you cannot doing that with the patents, which is my job, so I leverage patents and legal barriers because that's what VC do for a living. So if I cannot leverage that usual kind of stuff, what I can leverage in order to do my job, well, I should leverage shitcoins because that's the only way developers can be paid. And so Saifedean is kindly, I mean, he is very, as Tom was saying before, Saifedean tends to be very, very straightforward. He's not super uber nice to people, but he is right. Like this kind of model only managed to create tons and tons of useless shitcoins. No one of these ICO platforms, except Ethereum, which was only utilities to create other shitcoins. So the only utility of any ICO ever is only meta utility in order to create other ICOs, which is kind of like Yahoo being only profitable because it was paid by startups in order to be on Yahoo and so on. So it's a reflexive, recursive, speculative fad, and there is no. It is not a new way to reward developers. Developers need to buy Bitcoin, make Bitcoin better, hodl, and maybe if it works, they will get some money out of that. Otherwise, they will have to just find a daytime job. Like I mean, every superhero, even Spider-Man and Superman, they have a daytime job, and then they can be Bitcoiner, anonymous superhero during the night, with the exception of Bruce Wayne, which is actually already a millionaire, but that's another story.
Thanks, Giacomo. Yeah, I found this thread and also Whale Panda, who linked to Jimmy, very interesting because it is very nuanced and obviously challenges commercial understanding of money being the most powerful incentivizer, which we know is not true. But I did find this very, very interesting. Tone, I've switched to Whale Pandas, but again, Saifedean, that was awesome. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's fine. You can have it up on Whale Panda. I mean, they're basically saying the same thing, just in very different ways. I love Saifedean. Like, his bluntness is hilarious. He's a bigger Bitcoin maximalist than I am. Like, whenever I like speak to Saifedean, I like feel bad that I like Fluffy Pony and that I like Charlie Lee. Like, he makes me like he subconsciously makes me feel bad about that. So he's right. And Whale Panda made a really good point. I think maybe in his follow-up tweet or something, where it's very possible that Naval has invested in some dumb project, and now he has to kind of justify that by, like, shilling more and more useless concepts. And this is a problem. Like, sometimes, when you think this is like, you get closer and closer to the border of stupid and the border of outright scams, but you don't really know where the border is. And each one of us has a border at a different place. Now, it feels like the majority of people draw their border just above BitConnect, and I draw my border just below Bitcoin. But everybody else is somewhere in the middle, but most of them are much closer to BitConnect. And this is going to resolve one way or another. And as long as all of these people that continue to, sell the bullshit of a blockchain, as long as, people remember, as long as these people are not respected as thought leaders when this all ends, I'm okay with that. Like what worries me is that these people will delete all of their Twitter statements, and that's it. And there won't be enough people that are gonna like find the history of this stuff. Like, everything I ever tweeted out is there. It's gonna stay there. But a lot of these people just delete their stuff. Oh, and Leah, I sent you one more link of another one of Saifedean's tweets. I think it was like on the same day or something. If you can go ahead and pull that up, because I found this one kind of hilarious.
Oh, the shitcoin Buddha.
Right. So read that statement. So he explains that like all of altcoins are scams. And he actually links to one of my tweets, which is basically, my tweet was his rant put together in a one nice picture, which was amazing, by the way. But if you scroll down, something really funny happened there. Like, in the reply to that tweet right there, the person is asking, like, in reply, well, what about this coin? And I'm like, and I had to reply to that. I'm like, what part of all altcoins are scams did Saifedean not make clear? Because the guy's reply is, well, what about coin X? I think that one is not a scam. Like, people just don't get it. They just like, they continue to argue with you. I don't know. We'll see how it all ends.
Giacomo, before I move on to the other, Tony is right that there are a bit of a difference between what Whale Panda said. Now we're back on Saifedean, but do you have any follow-up to this? Because I think it may ring home, as you've already explained this one.
No, I mean, it's the only follow-up is that Naval blocked me, so I cannot see half of the conversation now, because I answered actually very kindly to his tweet about hodlers being free riders. And so now,
Hi.
Hey, Mir.
and so,
Hey, Mir.
and so now I'm blocked. So no follow-up from the
Are you?
conversation.
Hey,
Yeah, I am.
Saifuddin also replied to the hodler statement. I started reading it, but I didn't finish it. So right under Saifuddin's other tweet, he replied to that as well. But I like your idea of compensating, developers instead of a Ponzi coin with pizza. I think that's way more.
I joke about that, but actually, what we did was, I mean, it's a joke that I bring pizza to developers, but actually, when we created PHP, we had this problem. So there is a lot of people that do not want to be paid a wage, and if they were paid a wage, a normal wage, it would be way out of anybody's budget in order to do what they do, because they're just too good and too scarce. So the only way they can be helped is logistically and personally, like we were hosting them, giving them food, helping them to stay in the same place to discuss, connecting them with one with the other with the same idea, maybe even some sightseeing around Italy. And that's not, I mean, we joke about our business mainly being mainly tourism for geeks, but actually there was something there, like there is a lot of good developers that cannot be paid for money with what they do. They can be only helped and somehow enabled and somehow coadjuvated.
I guess I'll end on one last point, if that's okay. That ties back, which is just simply put that, sometimes people, and I think that there's an assumption here, absolutely, that we know what people want. And just very quickly that, with one of the first companies that I was involved with co-founding in Mongolia, we thought, and this is very related to a tweet storm that I did actually on Friday, that we assumed that the Mongolian goat herders that I was living with and working with to start this company wanted more money. And so we redirected profits back to the goat herders. However, when I finally got a good translator in and I sat back down and lived with them again and spoke with them, that actually wasn't what they wanted at all. They said very bluntly that they wanted to continue living as nomadic goat herders, and if we could help with their current situation of XYZ. And then I helped create this index-based livestock insurance premium. So just to wrap that up in a bow, I think maybe just one last comment as well is just simply put that how do you know what someone wants until you ask them? So I will end on that, but also Tone, your favorite quote from Saifuddin, thank you, live chat. The only shit coins that don't look bad are the ones you haven't researched yet.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
All right.
Just the last very quick follow-up. So in some of the comments, somebody pointed out that there are few shitcoins that are characterized by the fact that their developers also work on Bitcoin, which are namely basically Monero, Chia, the one of Brian Cohen, which is not yet launched, and Siacoin and Namecoin. So it's 4 of them. So there is an heuristic that there are a few shit coins that are probably not going anywhere and will be not used as soon as Bitcoin is widespread. But at least you can say that there is some kind of serious development going on from the fact that the main developers of these shit coins are also Bitcoin contributors. And I think that's a very good heuristic to distinguish not shitcoin you should invest into, because they're still going to be zero. They're still going to be useless in the long run or in the middle run, but at least some shitcoins where the science part is somehow interesting or teaching us something.
Thanks, Giacomo. And with that said, I am going to actually switch our story. We'll come back to that one in a bit, which is that Bloomberg announced, and this was on the 29th, Bitcoin bloodbath nears .com levels as many tokens go to zero. So absolutely. And Tone, what did you think when I sent you this story as soon as it came out? And
I'm not surprised. I mean, I've been in this space for about 4 years publicly. I think I started in around this time, around June, July of 2014, I started becoming public. I think my very first public appearance was at a conference in May or April of 2014 in Hong Kong. And I started writing a Cointelegraph in June or July. And God, like I can't even go back. Like my memory is good, but it's not that good as to how many people told me that token X is going to be the latest and greatest token of all time. From Aurora coin to Pay coin to God knows what else at this point, right? And I'm not surprised that 800 of these things are pretty much dead, and 800 more will be dead. All of them will. And the thing is, like, so many of these like Twitter handles and so many of these shills, they try to like sell you on a coin, and then they disappear and they delete their tweets because, and this is why, like, people make fun of me when I take a look at a person, I look at his Twitter followers and I say, hey, you're not important. It's amazing how many people with like 18 Twitter followers ask me, can you explain to me why coin XYZ is a scam? I'm like, no. A, you're not important, and B, I've never even heard of XYZ, so I know it's a scam by default. And I have already been right 800 times out of 1,000, and I'm going to be right another 800 times out of 1,000, and it doesn't mean that the other 200 were correct, right? It's like Saifedean said, if there is one coin out of 1 million coins that's going to be created, I am more than willing to miss it because I'm going to be right 99.99% of the time. Just like a lot of us missed Bitcoin for the first 2 to 3 years, but that's okay. We figured it out later. We're not billionaires. And just because you got in early doesn't mean that you know what you're talking about. And I think Roger Ver is proving this all over the blockchain space, that just because you got in early and you're a billionaire, Ulrich Falkwing, who I actually respected at one point for his knowledge of Bitcoin in the space, just because you got in early, it doesn't mean that you understand what a blockchain is. It doesn't understand the future of a blockchain. It doesn't mean you understand what the hell is going on here. So getting in early isn't a good thing. How many people got in early and lost all their Bitcoin at Mt. Gox? How many people got in early because of Silk Road and lost all of their Bitcoins and maybe even got arrested in the process because they didn't understand that Bitcoin wasn't as anonymous as they thought it was, right? So getting in early isn't necessarily a good thing. People always think about how rich you can get. And people always like knock on me. It's like, oh man, if you traded, if you did this and that, you'd be so much richer. I'm happy with my life. Like being richer doesn't necessarily mean happiness, right? I mean, I know I'm grumpy on this show sometimes, but like being happy, having more money doesn't equate to happiness. So anyway, I'll give it over to you, Giacomo. But I'm not surprised by this. I'm surprised the number is this small, and this number is going to get a lot bigger, especially as the bear market plays out.
Well, actually, I think there's. Oh, sorry, Giacomo. I was just gonna make fun of Tone, which is my favorite, in the world, which is an inverse relationship. I think as you're getting poorer right now, actually, you're a little happier because you won your Doug Polk bet and you got the rest of your probabilities correct. But as Bitcoin goes back up, I do believe that statement will reverse again. Okay, I will stop picking on you. Giacomo, would love to hear your thoughts. And Tone brought up multiple points that I think are very interesting. What did you think?
Absolutely. And the main point is this statistical point. So you can be right once, maybe because there is some real revolutionary scam coin, but most probably because there is a normal scam coin that for random market related reasons or marketing related reasons go to the moon for a period of time. That's fine. You can miss it because you will be right the rest of the time, and you don't need to be an early adopter of everything. I mean, you don't need to assume that every extraordinary claim is by default true. The healthy heuristics is to assume that every extraordinary claim is false, and then to be open to admit that you were wrong when you are proved with extraordinary evidences that the extraordinary claim was false. So when Satoshi Nakamoto came up with Bitcoin, most of the smarter people were skeptical because that's the smart attitude to have, because Satoshi was doing extraordinary claims. Then Bitcoin proved to be an extraordinary proof of those claims. And so now we can be believers, but not just because we are gullible, easily gullible, not easily to bamboozle, but because we tried and we criticized and we experimented and we actually were skeptical at some point. also there is a statistical element. I mean, if you have a casino and you have 100 people coming in, and then half of them will bet on red and half of them will bet on black on the roulette. Then you will have 50 people right and 50 people wrong. Then they bet again. You will have 25 people right. Then you will have 12 people right. Then 6 people right. Then 3 people right. Then you will have one guy that comes out of the casino telling you that he was right all the time. And that's true, but it's just random. So yeah. So anyway, about this article, I'm not sure that this is yet a .com like bloodbath. I would really like it to be that, but I think it's still a minor flexion in Bitcoin price that is driving down the Bitcoin derivatives that actually are the scam coins. So Bitcoin is going down. Scam coins are just as a stronger beta, so they are going down more, and ICOs even more. But then when Bitcoin will go back, maybe not these dead ICOs tokens, but new scammy ICO tokens will go to the moon again, and the exuberance will take off again. I think we need a higher peak and a serious bloodbath, like a serious bloodbath.
Yeah, no, we'll see how it plays out. It really depends on how far Bitcoin is going to go down. It's like what I said on the Cheddar interview when they said, hey, how come all of these altcoins go up more when Bitcoin goes up and go down more when Bitcoin goes down? And my answer was, well, it's simple. When Bitcoin goes up, you feel more fiat rich and you're able to use some of your money because you think you're wealthy. You're able to use some of that money to gamble. Just like most people don't really go to the Vegas and casino when they're broke, they go when they have extra money. So it's the same thing with altcoins. So as Bitcoin continues to fall, there'll be less and less people willing to gamble on altcoins, and that's why they eventually die. And one more comment to you, Giacomo, when we're talking that just because you were in early on Bitcoin, it doesn't necessarily mean you're smart. Yeah, there were a couple of very smart people from the very early days of Bitcoin, right? Like Nick Szabo was around, and Hal Finney was around, and several of them. But this also doesn't mean that the longer you've been a core developer, the smarter you are. Hence, you have Gavin Andreessen and Garzik and several of the other ones. It's just because of that. Like like Satoshi himself wasn't the best of developers. Like most of the core developers are better developers than Satoshi. He solved this one particular problem from a conceptual perspective. He was good enough of a developer to get the initial code out there. And 80-90% of that code has already been rewritten by better developers. And people seem to like put this Gavin Andreessen, on a pedestal. And Gavin Andreessen hasn't programmed in years because there were just better developers that came in later. It's that simple. As smarter and smarter people realized what Bitcoin was. And it took them a little longer because they were skeptical like the rest of us.
So on that, I'm gonna mess with the boys today and jump around on all the order because I think that this is fitting as well. Which is, simply put, someone sent 300 million USD in Bitcoin, paying a fee of only 0.04 USD. So I do think this is in fitting with Tone's last comment about developers. And Giacomo, what do you think about this good news?
Yeah, so when people talks about fees, that's incredible. That they don't know what they are talking about. We have a system that, not because of the fact that it's technically cheap, it is technically very, very expensive, maybe too expensive for many use cases, but because it's socially inexpensive, because it's socially scalable, it is censorship resistant, and it's borderless. Because of this, you can actually move hundreds of millions of dollars paying $0.04. So what are we talking about? This is clearly not a system that was conceived in order to pay coffee. Still, we can pay coffee with this unit of account if we want. We just need a third party. If we don't like third parties, we still can pay coffee with Bitcoin without using a trusted third party through Lightning. So what the hell? What do you want more than this? I mean, the incredible thing about Bitcoin is that it can allow permissionless, unstoppable capital flight and and economical osmosis between countries and permissionless saving. That's what's very important. And you can even have your trustless coffee on Bitcoin. Just yesterday in Lisbon, some of the guys there, some of them from BHP, they finished a hackathon program in order to pay a streaming video, one photogram for payment. So you pay each single photogram with Lightning. So yeah, you can do that. But the incredible thing is that you can move hundreds of $1,000,000 paying cents, even if it was not 0.04 cents, but it was $40. I mean, what the hell?
Thanks, Giacomo. And to that last point, especially, $300 million is no small amount of money. Tone, what did you think?
Well, first of all, yeah, it's definitely scary to move that kind of money with absolutely no like fail safe. Like if you type in the wrong address, you're pretty much screwed. But like, can you imagine how low that fee would be instead of 4 cents if only, let's see, BitPay and blockchain.info would implement freaking SegWit? It's only been a year, guys, over a year. And blockchain.info said they were ready in January of 2017, okay? So this fee should be significantly lower today if some of the biggest companies would only adopt the latest technology that the core developers have made specifically to reduce the fee, all right? Okay, so that rent's over. I'm also amazed by how dumb these big blockers are, where they actually expect any technology to be completely agnostic to whether you're sending $1 billion in one transaction or 1/100th of a penny in one transaction, right? I mean, do you really want a technology that is agnostic between the two? That will not work from a technological perspective. You will have on-chain payments for something substantial and something critical, and you will have second layer scaling for something as irrelevant as, like what Giacomo said, you're paying per screenshot of a streaming video, per frame of a streaming video. So that's pretty much it, I have to say on that. I'm not surprised, and this must scare the shit out of the traditional financial system, that somebody can, and the government, that someone can move this kind of value in minutes and this cheaply. And you don't know who's doing it. It has to scare the shit out of the AML KYC crowd.
Thanks, Tone. And we will then maybe go through the next stories very quickly, but I did find this very important. And because of that, I just wanted one last thought from you, Giacomo, because Tone's comment, I can imagine, is hitting quite home for you, especially regarding mass transfers to across borders, but also to his comment, and I did just really quickly want to hear your thoughts. Why haven't they implemented SegWit? This
oh no, it's
for the company too.
It's easy for me to answer that question.
Okay.
So first of all, blockchain.info, I think they have grossly incompetent developers, and one of their investors is Roger Ver, and BitPay, they're a wholly owned subsidiary of Bitmain. So those are my answers as to why.
Yeah, I agree with Ton, and this implies two things. One of the things I already kind of said in one of the previous briefs, which is at this moment, in time, your ethics, the way you are perceived ethically as a company will have consequences on the kind of developers you can hire. So if you are an anti-Bitcoin company or perceived as an anti-Bitcoin company, you cannot hope to hire good Bitcoin developers. Not now that they are so scarce, because they are basically, I mean, if they are good Bitcoin developers, it is because at this stage they are somehow ideologically involved or technically aware. So if you are promoting scams which are anti-ethical or anti-science, in the case of Bcash and such scams, you cannot to hire good developers. That will change in the future. So when people like Jimmy will will manage to make Bitcoin developers more commodity, then probably even BitPay and Coinbase and Blockchain Info will be able to hire good developers. But right now, it's incredibly difficult because these guys, they are not there for the money. They are not forced to stay there. They have plenty of choice. So if they don't more than like the company they are working for, they will just pretty easily change for another company with wonderful wages and great benefits. So they stay there if they believe the company is respectable and it's legit. If it's not, they will move. So that's one of the reasons that Blockchain Info cannot have good Bitcoin developers. So that's why they're slow and they're crappy and they are goofy with any kind of development. The second reason is that after all the ideological charade that they did with anti-SegWit and anti-Lightning, they cannot easily admit that it was all a farce. So they cannot easily come up with the right technical solution after they criticized the solution for so long.
Yeah. Hey, Giles. So here's what they've been doing, right? So their initial talking point was that Bitcoin fees are too high. Now that Bitcoin fees are too low, their talking point is because Bitcoin fees were too high, they scared everyone from using Bitcoin. No one uses Bitcoin anymore. Companies dropped Bitcoin payments, and now no one uses Bitcoin, and therefore the Bitcoin is ruined.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, I was laughing at how brilliant your brains are, which is what I was very excited about. Yes, moving on to, I'm just flipping with you guys to the next piece, which is on atomic swaps and using SegWit. Now, I will at least say something provocative, which is that I thought and have always been very excited about atomic swaps. And I thought with Lightning and atomic swaps that it would entice a lot of brilliant developers to actually create really, really great, brilliant new wallets. Now, probably I'm utterly incorrect because I suck at tech, but Giacomo, it seems like this is a big story. I don't know. Can you explain? And also, what are your thoughts if I'm, utterly crazy?
No, you're not crazy at all. Atomic swap are possible, they are legit, and I think they are interesting. Maybe, as Ton sometimes points out, maybe they are there is an overestimation of an overstatement of what they can do or cannot do, but they are definitely something interesting. Of course, in a post-hyper Bitcoinization world where everything is Bitcoin, you don't really need atomic swap. But even in that case, you can need atomic swap in order to do privacy things like coin swap. So it's a very interesting field. And in this case, it's not new that people manage to atomically swap between Bitcoin and altcoins. They did it on Ethereum, which was considered kind of difficult before. So what is atomic swap? Basically, atomic swap is a kind of transaction that when it transmits the asset A from me to you, then it also transmits the asset B from you to me. And there is no way to have this transaction just partial. You have it whole or you don't have it at all. So either it fails completely in both directions or it succeeds in both directions. So that's atomic. So you cannot, it's impossible to divide. It's indivisible, which atomics means in ancient Greek. So the way you do that is creating a transaction that in order to be spent, forces the spender to reveal a secret, then will also be the secret that will make the other part of the transaction take possess of the funds. On Ethereum, it was a little bit more crappy because Ethereum is a very crappy architecture, but they managed to do it. And for what I can see right now, it seems legit. So yeah, now you can exchange Ethereum with Bitcoin trustlessly without any kind of third party or without any kind of escrow. Of course, that doesn't mean that you don't need an exchange anymore, because how do you match demand with supply or demand with the other opposite demand? How do you create the order book? Also, these things are on chain, so they are expensive and slow. So it's not an alternative to high frequency trading. Maybe with Lightning based atomic swap could be something very, very similar to high frequency trading, almost. But still, you need to find the order book, right? So the path that corresponds to the best execution of your trade, which is not an easy problem in computer science.
Thank you, Giacomo. Tone, again, please shoot me down because I don't think you were too excited about this story. But again, I absolutely was. And to follow up on Giacomo, if I understand the economics correctly, it really cuts out switching costs. And I think would be good for Bitcoin in the long run. Obviously, you're switching between two different coins, but I think it could destroy more of the alts because you're going to be using what's utility maximizing, and most likely it's going to be the top market cap coins. And little by little, we'll phase out the rest of the shitcoins. But Tone, I sent you this story this morning, obviously, for the brief. What did you think?
I continue to be totally disinterested in atomic swaps. I mean, the only good thing that could come out of this is, exchanges like Binance might disappear. And people could use these things. Nobody wants decentralized exchanges. Like, everyone wants centralized exchanges. Like, nobody wants decentralized Uber. They want their customer service. They want someone to blame for when shit goes wrong. And maybe one day this will be useful, but around the same time this becomes useful, there won't be any altcoins anyway. So it is going to be for these crazy use cases of real estate on the blockchain, which is probably a terrible idea to begin with, as we've discussed plenty of times. I just continue, again, atomic swaps continue to be disinteresting to me. And what's even more disinteresting is that particular post came out of the 10x project and their developers. And they're also, I believe, is a total scammy organization that needed to create a useless scam ICO token in order to fund their debit cards, which is a centralized business, right? Like, I'm sorry, I don't want a centralized KYC business unless 10x is willing to give me a Bitcoin debit card that will allow me to fund it with my Bitcoin without any KYC. And I can stick any name on the outside of that card as I want without doing any KYC. I'll fill it with Bitcoin and I can spend it where Visa is accepted. I'm not interested in your debit card solution. It's totally useless. It is no different than a traditional finance system. You had to create a scam coin in order to launch your project. And now you're going to be high and mighty by saying we had like the first test of the atomic swaps. Like, I'm sorry, it's just totally ingenuine to me. And like the whole thing feels kind of sleazy.
So moving on to Tezos. This is fun. Giacomo, Tezos BetaNet has launched. Can you also give just a little bit of a background on Tezos, your thoughts and the relevance, if any, of this, what people have been talking about this whole weekend?
So relevance is just that they made a lot of money, so there was a lot of hype. It was one of the biggest ICOs back then. Then it was surpassed by even bigger ICOs. And Tezos was very, very nice, very, very ironic as a story because it was a blockchain based on governance. It was aimed at solving governance problems, which is something that blockchains are terrible at. The only good governance for a blockchain is no governance and is impossibility to change the rules for everybody. That's the best governance. But they wanted to do governance. And it was very, very ironic because after they reached they got all this money, they started to fight with each other, and they had a lot of governance problem for the foundation and for the company that launched the ICOs. And so they started to fight over the money. And now, just as many other ICOs, they have to demonstrate something after so many years and so much money. And one of the things that's funny about Tezos now is this total switch between free, permissionless, unregulated money rising and strict KYC hell right now. So I actually, at the beginning of our consultancy job 2 years ago, I did ask my developers to install every kind of altcoin or private blockchain to try before we speak shit about it. Now I don't anymore. So I cannot say that anybody, my company or in BHP, tried the code or seriously reviewed the code. So again, this is a risk. I could be wrong here. Maybe Tezos is great, but my uninformed heuristic is that there's nothing really interesting to see in this beta net. If I be wrong, I mean, I would be more than happy to be proved wrong and to find something interesting here. So far, what I found funny about Tezos was the governance farce and the KYC head, which is coming on top of all these supposedly permissionless experiments.
Thanks, Giacomo. Tone. So if I remember correctly, it was one of the biggest ICOs at the time with like 232 mil, and the production version got delayed by months. Is this your favorite scam? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's up there. I don't know why they're still in the news. They should have just taken the money and run. Most of the other people did. I don't know. They're trying to be a competitor to Ethereum. They're now way behind the ball. EOS is ahead of them, even though they can't get anything going. I mean, they're going to dilute the space, which I guess is good. I mean, Ethereum is absolutely nothing special. They can totally be replaced in any kind of a flippening. Tezos can do it. Who else is there? EOS is there. Who else is there? Like the Chinese version, Neo.
Yeah.
Neo. I mean, all of that stuff is totally replaceable. I'm more fascinated by our live chat where people are so convinced that DAX, which is the decentralized exchanges, will never have a single issue and everything will be smooth sailing and nothing will ever go wrong because apparently they've never heard of the DAO. Again, it's amazing. What you have to realize is when something goes terribly wrong in a decentralized operation, unless you have a Vitalik that can roll everything back, which means it's not actually decentralized, you have a huge problem and no incentive to solve it.
Thanks. Yeah, and for anyone that decides to read that Tezos news, it is a lot of fluffy language, which is actually why I put it up today for Giacomo and Tone, because I could vaguely understand it and wanted to understand it better as well. So yes, we are moving to Enigma, which we have spoken about when they first announced, which is out of the MIT labs. And yes, there is news that Coinbase's new custody service is now live. Maybe Tone will make a quick mention before his TA. But Giacomo, I'm going to keep picking on you today. What do you think about Enigma? We were a little positive about it before.
Well, I have very mixed feelings. So the Shitcoins is a space and blockchains is a space in which I kind of feel more sympathetic for blatant evidence scams with nothing interesting. Like if tomorrow John McAfee will launch the McAfee money, I will just take a huge lot and I will be happy for him. And I mean, whoever pays for that deserves to be parted by from their money. So I'm okay with super scams, which are even funny. I mean, BitConnect, hey, it's funny. While if I see something that could be interesting scientifically and could be something to follow and to experiment with and to study more, and that gets spoiled and ruined by scammy incentives, I'm kind of even more pissed than not less pissed. So Enigma is a case of something potentially very, very interesting. So smart contracts are basically incompatible with a blockchain concept because on a blockchain, at least directly, because on a blockchain you have to publish every information for every node forever. So basically you have zero privacy, and usually in contracts, you don't only want scalability, and blockchain is intrinsically unscalable because you have to replicate the contract in every node forever for every single contract. But you also have zero privacy for contracts. So something interesting is to try to obfuscate the contracts and to try to have private contracts. So yeah, the things you want to do is to obfuscate the information that you put on chain, something like Monero does, or you want to put less information on chain, which is better because the first kind of privacy makes your scalability problem even worse. The second kind of privacy made your scalability problem better because you're not putting stuff on chain that you shouldn't. So Enigma is like a mix of the two, and I have been following the first ideas of Enigma, and there is people from MIT which are not clueless at all. It is not like Ethereum level of incompetence, but still the blockchain hype abused for marketing, and the fact that they are not leveraging existing technology, searching for more hype. I mean, there will be space for a good kind of contract application on top of Bitcoin in order to create trusted computing-based contracts on top of Bitcoin. There would be a lot of space for that and a lot of need for that. Instead, you are, in order to get more media coverage, you have to launch your alternative protocol that will never scale socially. Nobody will run this stuff. So it's like instead you have a new idea for the Linux kernel, and instead of just trying to build on top of the Linux kernel, you try to launch your own pet open source operative system kernel. Don't. I mean, it's just for marketing. But anyway, the field of research is legit and interesting to me. The specific implementation, man.
Thanks, Giacomo. Tone, is this interesting to you?
Actually, no, this is not interesting to me at all. So there's actually two articles there. We covered the other article last time, about 10 days ago. If you scroll down, there was the prior article on Enigma. And like, I reread both of these articles and I have no clue what the hell this thing is. I have no clue how the hell this thing works. I have no clue what blockchain it uses. If it uses its own blockchain, I don't know if it has its own scam money. I know I don't understand this project at all. It has every buzzword known to man in there. They're talking about a user needs privacy. Sure. What does that have to do with decentralization? You can provide privacy. I'm going to always fall back on Proton Mail email provider, right? My emails are locally encrypted and they're stored on their centralized servers in an encrypted way. That's it. It's that simple. You don't need MIT and Intel creating a scam coin to give a user privacy on a contract. It's amazing how convoluted this shit gets for something that has existed for 15 years that someone just has to be willing to put inside a centralized server. It's really amazing. I think this is total nonsense. And like, I understand how Intel can be this stupid. I find it hard to believe that MIT Media Lab could be this stupid, considering like, I think Joey Ito is there, and I really like him because he believes every ICO is a scam. So you automatically, go up in my book. But if this is the kind of nonsense that's coming out of MIT, wow, that's really not good.
So non-nonsense. You want to go to TA? I've had you on the screen for a while. I took off screen share.
That can be the bill. Hey, Giacomo, any comment on what I just said?
True. That's
no, I kind of agree. It shouldn't be interesting. It's interesting for me because I am a geek. And basically, you already have privacy with Proton Mail, and that's exact. You already have privacy on contract. If by contract you mean PDFs of digital contracts, maybe even digitally signed. If you want privacy on Bitcoin-like contracts, like multi-sigs and stuff like that, escrow, and you want privacy there, then we need some development in order to make it more private, because right now, the Bitcoin scripts, for example, Bitcoin script is not private. When you spend a multi-sig right now, you reveal all the structure of your multi-sig. So it's easier for the miner to attack. For example, imagine that the majority of hash rate wants to attack the Lightning Network. Right now, it's possible to identify the closing transaction of a Lightning Network. So they could mess up with it. So things like Mast and Graftroot and Taproot and Schnorr aggregation, they are all useful to get more privacy on smart contracts. This Enigma approach has, in my opinion, some interest in that direction. But the incentives are all wrong if they just follow the hype and if they just try to ride the hype of blockchain and buzzword. So at the end, I agree with you.
All right, guys, let's jump over to TA. Of course, check out tomebase.com. My workshop in Atlanta, we added a few seats. I can't believe Atlanta has Boston isn't doing too good. I hope I don't have to cancel that one. But Atlanta, I will be going down there on Friday to teach the workshop on Saturday. And if you are interested in trading, please check out the educational section. Has lots of links for you to go through and learn. All right, here's the weekly chart. The weekly chart is bouncing back a little bit. So the week has just started. This is the 8th candle. I really wanted to see a weekly 9. And while everyone and their mother is already calling for the end of the bear market, what will happen if we don't get a 9 and we actually bounce to the $7,000 range and prevent us from getting a 9 next week is it will set us up for a lot more pain down the line because a 9 is coming on a weekly downside. We got a bunch of them in 2014, and I'm expecting at least one of them in 2015. So all this bounce is doing is delaying the inevitable of $5,000 and lower. Now, for now, we're still under the descending triangle breakdown. And again, it's not over surprising that price has bounced back a little bit because going down from 10,000 down to 5750 or so takes a lot of energy. And it just ran out of energy. And do I still think we can hit my $5,000 target in the first 2 weeks of July? I still think that can happen. I still think that's reasonable. Let's see what happens the rest of this week. I might change my mind next week and extend that $5,000 target out to, I don't know, August or something. But at the moment, I see no reason why I should walk away from it. You can see that the 30-week moving average is has dropped significantly because we have just knocked out the third highest price Bitcoin ever had. And next Monday, we're going to knock out the highest price we ever had. And 3 weeks after that, we're going to knock out the second highest price, closing weekly price Bitcoin ever had. So this 30-week moving average is going to drop very quickly, and it will probably cross the 50-week moving average sometime by the 1st of August. So around there, it'll probably drop. So how high can the bounce be? Well, I expected a bounce from 5,000, potentially be very strong and go all the way into the death cross. So if the bounce has started a little prematurely, it can go as high as the death cross, 8,500, but I still think it'll struggle breaking 7,000. I've been saying that 7,000 is a reasonable point for a bounce. Here's the daily chart. Here is the $7,000 line. I believe it's like 7,050 to be exact. This current candle is pretty strong. It would have been perfect if we got into this line on a 9 candle. I think if we continue to bounce strong, we can break it earlier than a 9. I still think 7,000 is a reasonable place for a reversal. So I'm going to take one of these arrows and I'm just going to, stick it somewhere here. I'm probably going to count 9 days out or 6 days additional. So if that's 3, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So somewhere around here. So that would be the area. If we continue to stay strong, that would be the area. I have no reason to walk away from my bearish stance on the market. The 12-hour chart would have been tricky to trade I did have this red line, and I must have talked about how now that we've broken above that line, this line serves as support. As far as using the numerical indicator to time the upswing, that would have been difficult because you had a price flip right before that. So getting in on this candle would have been not all the ducks would have been lined up in a row. Would have made the would have made it tricky to time this trade off of the support level. Let's see the 4-hour chart. The 4-hour chart was better, right? Again, if you're blindly trading the numerical indicator, you can see how once the price flipped, the red 2 never went below a red 1. The red 3 never went below a red 2. Red 4 never went below a red 3. So there was never any short to take on. Then you had a price flip. Then you had another price flip. 2 never went below a 1. 3 never went below a 2. 4 never went below a 3. Then you had a price flip. And right there, a green 2 trades above a green 1. So this is why I always tell people that if you're blindly trading this indicator, you're supposed to wait for confirmation. And your confirmation is a green number trading above a prior green number or a red number trading below the prior red number. Even though you had up to 4 red counts, they never went below the prior candle. And if they did and then swung all the way back, you can reconsider that trade. But however, a green 2 going above a green 1 and a green 3 going above a green 2 allows you to take on the bullish trade if you're a mechanical trader of this system. Now, you do have a resistance right here at 67.50, but I think that this could go as high as 7. I don't expect it to go higher than that. I would not be surprised if it fell below that. If you're using the 1-hour chart, your exit from your bullish trade would have been 2 hours ago, and now you wait. If you can get a green number above a prior green number and above the 9 high, then sure, you can look at a countdown and have it go higher. And the 30-minute chart is in a very similar boat. I would wait for a green price flip and higher highs than the 9, and then you can get back into the bullish trade. Here's gold weekly. I am not surprised that gold continues to go down. I am once gold falls. Oh wow, this is bad. You know what? I'll give gold a little bit of leeway. Once gold falls below 1,210, I believe that gold will go under 1,000, and silver will do really bad as well. The monthly chart looks very ugly indeed. There is a chance that the moving average will hold it, but that chance is small. The S&P weekly doesn't look too bad considering the massacre in the Chinese markets. The S&P weekly started off the week fairly stable. Here's the S&P daily. Yeah, there was a down gap and you are getting a bit of a depth cross, but considering what I heard happen in the Asian markets, the S&P is doing amazingly well, but we'll see. We are still in the middle of a 1 to 4 week correction. We have now fallen below the 30-week moving average. We could go as low as the 50-week moving average, but I don't know, maybe. I still think the S&P will reverse this fall and not crash as many are predicting. I mean, I can take a look at the Chinese markets. What's the SH comp?
Yep.
I don't have it saved. I got to make a new chart. All right, so here's the Shanghai Composite. This is the daily chart. It should be coming to an end soon. You are on a 7 of 9. Your daily RSI and MACD are pretty bad. It's been going down for quite a bit, and I may have to go to a weekly chart. in order to get a much better perspective. Oh, wow. So that's pretty bad. So it looks like it topped back in 2015. Whoa, that was like a giant bubble. Yeah, hey, this could be Bitcoin's fate, right? I mean, I don't see how this is all that different than Bitcoin because look, you fell hard, you made a slightly lower low, you made another lower low, and then for a year and a half, you were slowly going up, 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 and then boom, you could not break the prior highs. You couldn't break the, I mean, look what happened on this moving average crossover of 30 versus the 50 week moving average. This is what Bitcoin is looking at, right? Here is the weekly Bitcoin, and this is that 30 going below 50. That hasn't even happened yet in Bitcoin because we fell so quickly relative to the Shanghai. And on a weekly scale. And look how long this bounce was. And we were not able to break 3,600. So we couldn't able to get to this high. And now we're breaking back down to this, which tells me we are probably going to go. Well, it's been higher earlier. This is not even the most recent bubble. You know what? It's really hard to say. This looks really bad for the Chinese market. This was a lower high. The Chinese market has not gotten above its 2007 high. I would love to spend a bunch of time with Tyler talking about this. You know, all thoughts of China surpassing US to be the next global superpower sometime in the first half of the century. This stock market picture is telling me the complete opposite. This tells me that whatever the new government regime of China, they are I think China is going to struggle because once their stock prices fall below this low, I don't really see any support, like ever, like at all. This is bad. Like their next support level is this. Like the best fit line. So maybe a tad lower. And because it's already been support here and here, this is just ugly. Like if I didn't know any better, I'd say, you know, this thing is going to zero, like a shitcoin. This is not how, you know, like, let's just say if China was going to be the next global superpower, this is not what their stock market normally should look like. Leah, your thoughts?
I think I'm doing a show later today to have a lot of fun. Tyler did and I, small one today about this, but as you know, I used to trade Asian equities, so I have a lot of thoughts about this one. But I'm happy you brought it up.
The long-term picture of the Shanghai Composite is so ugly. It's bad. Now, on a trader purposes, you're on a 6 of 9. So, you know, 3 more weeks of downside after this week. So really 4 more weeks of downside. And there could be a dead cat bounce, can take you as high as 3,000 maybe. But after that, like I have absolutely no idea how low this thing can go. It'll probably find a level that can't be predicted. My best guess is it will reverse in the $2,300 to $2,500 range. It will make a new low. Now that it's going past this prior low, it should go lower. If it gets to this blue line, I think it's going to get real ugly. I think it's going to break lower than this line. I don't know. I don't know. It looks bad. It looks really bad.
It's bad. It's bloodbath in all of the Asian equity markets. Actually, if you could play around later. I mean, MSCI Asian Pacific is down 1.2. Topics is like the worst. You know, but it's all over non-performing loans.
And by the way, this is bad for Bitcoin. By the way, this this bloodbath in China, because remember, China has a lot of money. One of the reasons why China has a lot of money is because their stock market has been doing fairly well, not at the 2007 highs, but a lot of people got rich on that, right? There's a lot of companies in China. A lot of their stock value was overvalued, clearly, as it's going down. So there was a lot of money sloshing around China. If their stock market goes down 50%, there's not going to be as much money slushing around China, leaving China, for US, for Canada, buying all that real estate, like the real estate in Vancouver can crash. A lot of bad things can happen if the Chinese stock market crashes, because then the Chinese will be poorer. That also means a lot less money needs to leave the country because they have less money. It also means a lot less Bitcoin buying coming out of China. So you want the stock markets to be going to new all-time highs for the sake of Bitcoin, because then people will move that money out of those countries with Bitcoin. The crash of the Chinese stock markets are really bad for the price of Bitcoin, not good.
Yep, and just last note, which you can pick up on, and then I'll stop being obnoxious on these, is just, when one country like China does this terribly, especially, let's just focus specifically on the Asian markets and the ripple effects, specifically, let's just say Japan, which is where we have, a lot of impact regarding volume for exchanges for Bitcoin. It is very, very important to watch and how this is affecting treasuries. I mean, the yield is 2.8% right now. Gold, we just said, is down. There's a lot of ripple effects. So that's, thank you for covering the different indexes, Tone.
Right. And another thing is, if the Chinese market crashes bad enough and fast enough, their government will need a scapegoat, and that scapegoat can easily be Trump and the U.S. government, creating some very bad relations. Now, generally, I think this is more. I think there is a minor connection there, but not a huge connection. I think that a lot of the Chinese companies are, like fake U.S. companies, like just copying other companies. So there's a lot of that going on there. But in general, they will need a scapegoat. I mean, these trade wars are really bad. Like, I don't support trade wars at all, because they can lead to real wars. And this is how it starts, with crashing of the markets.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that we'll end on this depressing note right now. But yes, there's a lot there. Maybe we can have some fun, and I'll throw in my fundamental analysis, and we'll duke it out. But Giacomo, have an amazing day in this beautiful, you showed us the outside a little bit, but have an incredible time.
Thank you. I will. And tomorrow, let's connect with Building on Bitcoin live stream, because I will speak on Wednesday, but tomorrow the presentation are going to be awesome.
Awesome. So you said it is a live stream?
Yes, I'm assuming there is one, because the organization is the same of Breaking Bitcoin. There was a live stream. So yeah, I'm pretty confident there is one.
Just nice.
The
Tone. Oh, nice. Tone.
Bye, guys. Good luck trading. It's really hot here in New York. It really, really is. I'm going to jump right into a cold shower now.
All right, everybody, catch the game at 2 p.m. Eastern, which, oh, wow. Okay, in 12 minutes. Okay, bye. I want to catch it.
Bye, guys.
See ya.